Hello and welcome to the United Community Channel. My name is Jack and this is your latest Manchester United news. And we've got a lot to talk about today and very positive. I won't say for once because it's been positive the last few weeks on and potentially off the field as well. But the majority of, I suppose, the news tonight is in relation to off the field stuff. And as you can see, if you're watching on YouTube, it's in relation to Jim Ratcliffe wanting to make Old Trafford the Wembley of the North. It sounds like a quote from a Game of Thrones show. So we're going to talk about that. We're also going to talk about the ratification of the 25%. Looks like it's near and closer for Jim Ratcliffe as well. And maybe the excitement and the anticipation around that as well, because I think we're probably going to get an awful lot more, I suppose, inkling into what Jim Ratcliffe is wanting to do once that 25% is ratified. We'll talk about that. We're also going to talk transfer news as well, guys. Obviously, the transfer window has just ended, but strap yourself in for the next few months because United are going to be linked with everybody and their grandmother between now and the transfer window. We're going to talk a little bit about a striker. We're going to talk a little bit about midfielders. We're going to talk a little bit as well about I suppose a forward that's leaving Manchester United in the summer. We know who he is, and some more clubs are being linked with him now as well. So as always, guys, please do smash a like on the video. Hit subscribe if you're new to the channel. On the road to 8,000 subscribers. And of course, get your thoughts into the comment section because it's an interactive show. And I want to get your opinions and your thoughts on all of the topics that we talk about as well. But there's nowhere else to start other than here. Jim Ratcliffe's plans to redevelop Old Trafford emerge. And these are reports coming out from James Ducker in a Telegraph today. And we've got a lot of kind of things to talk about when it comes to this. Tommy says, I hope this shit doesn't happen in Hollywood, Old Trafford. Chris says, I read that Highland is considering a move to Barcelona. Fuck off you, don't deny me now. It's too early for that. But yeah, look, let's talk about Jim Ratcliffe and the plans to redevelop Old Trafford. So like I said, James Ducker in the Telegraph today says owner Jim Ratcliffe has big plans for Old Trafford, according to a report today. He has ambitions to turn the iconic English stadium into the Wembley of the North. His right, with much fanfare when it was officially confirmed in 2023. So the takeover is expected to be ratified within the next fortnight, according to the Telegraph, and part of the 1.03 billion deal includes the guarantee of an additional 237 million investment in the redevelopment of Old Trafford, and Ratcliffe has wasted little time in drawing up plans to improve the ground. He's looking to create a state-of-the-art ground. According to the Telegraph report, he wants to build a stadium which rivals Wembley, believing that the north of England should have a stadium that can match the iconic ground in the English capital. He is prepared to lobby the UK government for funds, with Westminster looking to leave their levelling up promises. United's new owner is determined to make this happen, with one source telling the Telegraph that Ratcliffe believes the Red Devils need a new state-of-the-art stadium which can rival some of the best in the country. We feel there's a strong argument for the country having a top-class major venue in the north, a Wembley of the North, they added. Yeah, I mean, it's music to United fans' ears. Now, the questions now start to appear, in relation to what way is it going to be done? How are we going to do it? Is it going to be Old Trafford or a completely new stadium? We'll go down through some of these here as well. Like you said, world-class venue to rival the 90,000 venue. We done all of that there. State-of-the-art, knock it out of the park, wow stadium. These are all just little snippets. Now, we get on to this part. Now, this is in relation to, what do you do? Do you build a new stadium or do you redevelop Old Trafford that's currently there? Now, according to reports, I've got it here. Maybe I don't have it. So basically, it's going to cost around 2 billion to build a brand new stadium, or anywhere between, I think it's a 1.5 and 2.1 billion to build a brand new stadium. And to redevelop Old Trafford, to get it up to the levels that you would want to get it, to the kind of standards a brand new stadium would give you, you're talking at around 800 million. Obviously, we're talking here about I suppose the limitations that Old Trafford has given its current location. You've got the railway line on one side and then you've got the canal on the other side. It does limit the space that you can, potentially, I suppose, expand. Now, I don't think you're going to be expanding an awful lot with the current stands that are there. The stands that are there are all fantastic stands. I think the majority of any new capacity that would come with Old Trafford would be in the Sir Bobby Charlton stand, which is obviously the dugout side. It's only one tier. You can go and put another tier on top of that. Now, in saying that, all of the current stands that are there do need redevelopment. Now, what levels of redevelopment do they need? Again, I'm not an architect, but I've been to Old Trafford an awful lot over the last few years, and you can tell it's not up to scratch. It's not up to standard. It's very tight. I'm not a big chap, but my knees are touching the back of whoever's sitting in front of me. And all of these new modern stadiums, you got space. We're talking maybe a bit of safe standing as well. A bit of Wi-Fi would be lovely as well. So there's that argument. There's also the argument of a new stadium, which means you would be moving out of Old Trafford. And a lot of people are kind of against this, saying we can't move out of Old Trafford. It's where we've been for, however long it's been. I mean, Old Trafford hasn't been always in that location. I think originally, before World War II, I think the pitch was actually in the other direction, if that makes sense. And, I mean, you would be in the same postcode. You're literally just moving the stadium, a couple of 100 yards the other side of the Stretford end by the looks of things. So look, I wouldn't completely be against that either. I do think, when we're getting onto the whole what should we do and how much is this actually needed? It is needed. It is needed. Is it top of the priority list for Manchester United? I don't think so. I think there's more important things that need to be done at the club at the moment. Playing staff, performances on the pitch, directors of football. I think these are all things that are, naturally going to come before a new stadium. New stadium is going to take years. Or redevelopment of Old Trafford is going to take years. And I don't mind which one it is. I really don't. I want Manchester United to have a state-of-the-art stadium. If building a new stadium or renovating Old Trafford is going to take money away from investing into the playing staff and into a director of football and the infrastructure in the background, then I don't want Old Trafford to be at the top of the priority list. I really don't. I would rather it be maybe second. I think we need to get back to winning ways on the field first before we can talk about, redeveloping Old Trafford. Look at Liverpool, for example. When Jurgen Klopp came in, I mean, Anfield wasn't an overly spectacular stadium. They started winning on the field. Money started coming in, generated revenue, sponsorship deals, all of these kind of things. All of a sudden, they built a brand new stand. So I think that's, me personally, I think that's the order that it should come in. But I'm glad to hear these kind of stories coming out of Manchester United now. And obviously, with the 25% stake that has yet to be ratified, I think once that is ratified, we're going to know an awful lot more about Jim Ratcliffe's plans with Manchester United, how much he's willing to invest, where he's going to put his money, so on and so forth. And I think, look, obviously, the sooner that happens, the better. Let's go down through some of the comments here and see what people are saying. Let's see. Oshin says, don't mind redevelopment, don't want a new stadium. Danny says, there's no question that Old Trafford needs so much maintenance, 10 years or more of no love from the Glazers, all the history we have, that can't be replaced. Well, it's closer to 20 years, because I think the only real change that the Glazers have made is redeveloping a little bit of the disabled section, I think. And other than that, it's been relatively untouched. Finn says, how would a redevelopment work? Stadium share with City? Well, I think if you're redeveloping Old Trafford, you close one stand, per, and continue to play there. You just don't have one stand open, and then, or two stands, whatever it may be. We've seen clubs do it. Obviously, not as clubs as big, but even the likes of Fulham, for example, they're building a new stand at the moment. I think even Real Madrid with the Bernabeu, I think they opened it before it was fully complete. So it is viable to do that. I think if you're going to build a new stadium outside of Old Trafford next door to it, then obviously you can continue to play in the original ground. Oshin says, reason we all should not sell naming rights, don't want OnlyFans at Old Trafford. Yeah, well, that's the one thing I would completely be against. Old Trafford can never be renamed. It can never be renamed. And I don't think Jim Ratcliffe would do that. I think that would be more of a Glazer move. And they haven't even consider doing that. So I don't think Jim Ratcliffe is going to be the one to do that. DJ Zane, good to see you, pal. Thanks for joining as always. Snowflake wanting knee room and Wi-Fi. Go to watch the match. Well, look. It's been a big gripe with an awful lot of Manchester United supporters that you can't even get. There's very poor cell service, mobile phone service in and around Old Trafford as well, which is something fans have been calling for a long time. And look, it has nothing got to do with Wi-Fi. I did struggle to put up a couple of halftime TikToks during my last few visits to Old Trafford, but it's about facilities more than anything else, and the state-of-the-art stadium and all of that stuff that comes with it. Your Wi-Fi's, your bar area, I don't know, burgers, whatever it may be. I don't know. But yeah, you're 100% right. The football is what's most important. Finn says Real Madrid redeveloped the Bernabeu and it's looking savage. Oshin says this is Sir Jim saying he's around for the long term at 70 years of age. Yeah, well, look, I mean, 70 is young these days, especially for these billionaires that now, look, none of us can beat when it's your time, but this guy has enough money to make sure he's fit and healthy for a long time yet, I would say. I mean, look at Roy Hodgson, for example, still managing in the Premier League, and he looks like, he shouldn't be managing. Damien says when the Qatari bid was being talked about, they were talking about putting a new stadium where the coach park is. Yeah, so that's what we're talking about here. Let me put it up here. So basically behind the Stretford end, you would be looking at an awful lot of space there for redevelopment. You've got the railway line along here. That's the Sir Bobby Charlton stand, and then obviously the Sir Alex Ferguson stand here, and then East stand here. So, or is it South stand? I'm not 100% sure. I always get confused with that one. So yeah, I mean, look, it's promising. These are all positive things. Now, again, I go back to what I've been saying before, and this Mike Keegan is talking here in the Daily Mail as well. He said, according to Insider, Sir Jim Ratcliffe has wasted little time since his 25% stake in Manchester United was announced. As a lifelong United fan, Ratcliffe is keen to leave a legacy and believes a stadium worthy of one of the biggest clubs is a huge part of that. He goes on then to say, Jim is a man in a hurry, a source said. He's 71 and wants to get on with it. This is an opportunity to leave a legacy. This is, and back to what Oshin said there, he's around for the long term at 70 years of age, kind of question mark. I think this is a positive. He wants to get as much done in as quick a time as possible. And that could, from a fan's perspective, from the club perspective, that could only be a positive thing. Let him get in there, pump his money in if he wants, build a new stadium, change the playing staff, bring in some standards, all that kind of stuff. Brilliant. Happy days. All for it. And if he's in a hurry to get things done, then that can only be a positive for us. It really can. But yeah, please smash a like in the video if you haven't done so, guys. Take a second, hit the thumbs up. Helps the channel out an awful lot, like I said. And hit subscribe if you're new to the channel as well. Moving it on a little bit, guys, I want to talk a little bit about the actual ratification of his 25% stake, and it is inching closer to finalisation, according to a number of different reports. The winds of change have already begun, blah, blah, blah. The SEC filing have shown, basically, From the official documents, Sir Jim Ratcliffe's stake was put to a vote in an extraordinary general meeting on February the 5th, which was yesterday. The vote, which passed with 96% approval, allows Ratcliffe to take over Class B shares, which have all the voting power. I wonder the 4%. I would love to know who the 4% are in that figure there, and ask them why you're voting against, allowing him to own 25%, just out of curiosity. This was the natural step towards completion of the deal, as United are a publicly listed company on the New York Stock Exchange. What this means is that any majority transfer of shares needs to be approved by all shareholders. At United, they are divided into Class A and Class B. In a general meeting, the transfer of Class A shares resolution must pass with 94% approval, while the transfer of Class B shares, wholly owned by the Glazers, was unsurprisingly passed with 100% approval. The total agreement on the transfer of all shares, therefore, comes out to be 98%, which was never in doubt, as it was the official process, effectively a formality. Let me see. Let me just scroll down and see. Let's get away from all the Class B. A formal ratification and sign-off of the deal could come by mid-February at this rate, after which his team can start working at the club in an official capacity. Now, look, let's not get it twisted here. He already has his people in there working behind the scenes. I would say we're already looking at players for the summer, identifying targets, so on and so forth. But like I said, the majority of this, the majority of the excitement around this 25% is to hear an official announcement from him, an official statement, maybe a sit-down interview on his plans and what he wants, to do with Manchester United, and where he wants to bring the club, where he wants to invest his money. That's what we're talking about here. So that's why I'm excited more than anything else. So it looks like, well, we know for certain now, basically, that there is no real hang-ups on it. It is going to get ratified. It's just going to take maybe another week or so. We should probably get it within the week. So yeah, look, I mean, it's exciting times, and it's something that we've been longing for a long time as Manchester United fans. We wanted change, albeit it's not the complete change that we were hoping for initially, with a full sale and the Glazers completely gone. It's certainly a big step in the right direction, and one that we can really look forward to, in my opinion. All of the positivity coming out around the Jim Ratcliffe takeover, and the positive news stories and the stories about what he wants to do, they wouldn't be coming out if they weren't, or if they didn't have some, I suppose, base to them, and some truth to them. Because what we do know more than anything else is that journalists and news outlets like to talk negatively about Manchester United. It generates clicks, it generates sales, whatever it may be. So all of the positivity coming out around Jim Ratcliffe and the club in the past few weeks is something that, fans can really, grasp onto. And I think it really is a positive thing. Let's see. Danny says, Jack, did you hear that Galatasaray are interested in Christian Eriksen? They want to sign him by the end of next week. That's when the transfer window closes. In my opinion, we should let him go. Yeah, I spoke about it this morning on the morning news show, guys. Make sure you're checking that out. It's up before 10:30 every morning. Spoke a little bit about it. Look, I mean, in relation to Christian Eriksen, he's got 18 months left on his deal. I don't see why we get rid of him now. I think we'll move him on in the summer. I don't think we will get rid of him this week. I think it would be foolish of Manchester United to get rid of him. I don't see why we would get rid of a player when we can't bring in a replacement. We know how, I suppose, we know the lack of depth that we've got in the squad currently with this club and this team. Christian Eriksen is a quality footballer. All right, his legs are gone and he doesn't have an awful lot of physicality or pace, but he can still have a part to play in the run-in between now and the end of the season. I would keep him. I would absolutely 100% keep him. Now, I think it's pretty certain and it's pretty nailed on that, the three players that are going to be playing in midfield for the majority of the season, bar, you would hope, please God, they don't get any injuries, is Casemiro, Menu, and Bruno Fernandes. That's going to be it. Now, we know Scott McTominay is being used a bit as well. You know, I think Christian Eriksen can play a role between now and the end of the season, so I would be keeping him. I really would. Reece says, would hurt the history, but would get them Liverpool and City fans shutting up about falling down. Has Omar started yet, says Aaron? No, so he technically won't be officially in Aaron until the summer. Yeah, because that's when his contract, I think, is up at City or something like that. Oshin says, can't get rid when we're paper thin. Yeah, I agree. Let's move on to a little bit of transfer news, guys, for the next few minutes and talk a little bit about, some potential ins and outs. Now, again, we're all talking about summer. Now, look, we do know Manchester United centre-back area is an area that we're going to be talking about probably on a weekly basis between now and the end of the transfer window, next September or this September. And there's been another player that Manchester United have been linked with, and it is this guy, Gleison Bremer of Juventus. United are reportedly interested in signing Juventus standout defender. I'm going to call it Gleison Bremer. But the defender has a high asking price. Juventus paid 41 million euros in the summer of 2022 with the Brazilians to win the Brazilian services. This turned out to be a great move in retrospect, as the 26-year-old is currently undoubtedly the best defender in Serie A. Bremer was one of very few Juventus players to make an impression, along with Wojciech Szczesny during Sunday's loss in the Derby d'Italia. The Brazilian international's contract was recently renewed by the Turin-based Giants, who also increased his salary to approximately 6 million euros in addition to bonuses. Juventus would entertain bids higher than 70 million, basically. So look, I mean, in relation to this guy, again, I can't lie that I've seen an awful lot of him. I know of him, and I know he's, is potentially a very good defender. I haven't been obviously watching an awful lot of Serie A this year. But again, if you're talking 70 million for a centre-back like that, I think, again, Manchester United need to be quite smart in the summer transfer window coming up. And while paying 70 million for a defender of his quality, I wouldn't be against. I would be saying to myself, please, God, let it be that we can sell players to generate the type of money that will allow us to spend 70 million on a centre-back, if that makes sense. Because over the last few years, it's been struggling to sell players and then overspending on players coming in. So it narrows down the amount of players you can actually get in the door. And we've said this basically, haven't we now, for the bones of 18 months, ever since Ten Hag got the job. We've been saying, when it comes to transfer windows, United need to get the balance between quality and quantity and make sure that you're getting enough numbers in the door that have the quality to play for Manchester United, because we're talking open heart surgery and we're talking, a big overhaul of playing staff. I would like 5 first team players to come in the summer, ideally. But them 5 players have to be good enough to play for Manchester United. And if they're good enough to play for Manchester United, you're going to spend money on them. And you're going to spend decent money on them. Over here then, on the other hand, Harry Maguire, Scott McTominay, Donny van de Beek, Jadon Sancho, Mason Greenwood, Aaron Wan-Bissaka, Victor Lindelof, whoever else, can we get money in the door, decent money in the door for these guys, which will allow us to really, really go and attack the summer transfer window? I think that's what it's going to come down to. Damien says, definitely keep Eriksen. He can do a job until we get a replacement. Chris says, get rid of Eriksen and bring back Dan Gore. Chris says, Elise will end up like Mason Mount. I'm going to get on to Elise in a moment. Bremer looks at Eunice, says Ushin. He does, in fairness to him, Danny says, Bayern Munich are still interested in Harry Maguire. Let's hope we can swap Maguire off De Ligt and Cash. De Ligt really not happy at Bayern at the moment. He wants out. Well, look, I mean, I think Harry Maguire plus Cash for De Ligt would be a very smart move. Now, again, there's people that, Chris, for example, doesn't think we should go for De Ligt, and that's okay. But in terms of a financial standpoint, getting Harry Maguire gone, getting De Ligt in, and maybe spending I don't know, 20 million? I mean, I think that's some good business. You're getting De Ligt in, you're getting an upgrade on Harry Maguire that's costing 20 million. And I think that's a good deal, net, But again, look, let's see what happens because it's going to be an interesting summer transfer window. Like, the last thing I want to see with this summer transfer window is I want to see speed in this summer transfer window. Not your man that does YouTube. I want to see us going fast into this transfer window. And I think getting the director of football in the door ASAP will allow us to do that. If I don't know who it's going to be, if it's Dan Ashworth, if it's Paul Mitchell, if it's, Dougie Freedman, get him in as quick as possible. Get him behind the desk with Eric Ten Hag, with Omar Barada, Jim Ratcliffe, Dave Brailsford, whoever else needs to be in that meeting. And get a fucking pen and paper and let's start writing names down, and identifying players, and get the head of scouting in, the head of recruitment, and say, right, well, who are you looking at? Let us know some of the young players from around the world that we can supplement into the squad with, a £50 million transfer fee for somebody else. And, these are the meetings that we need to be having. And I think the sooner we can start these types of meetings and identify players and a style of play and a direction that you want to go in, I mean, we can walk into that transfer window with, ready to go. De Ligt is done. Harry Maguire is gone. And we're also signing, I don't know, fucking whoever else, João Neves from Benfica. It's done. It's already done. We've identified him. We've agreed a fee. We're just waiting on the transfer window open and it's done and dusted. That's what you want to see. You don't want United losing the first 2 games of the season in August and us panic buying again. I don't think that will be the case anymore. I don't think Jim Ratcliffe and Ineos will allow that to happen. But we've had too many transfer windows where it's dragged on and it's dragged on and it's dragged on. And look, from my standpoint, as a channel, a YouTube channel where we bring news and we bring transfer news, it allows us to talk about things an awful lot on the channel. If Manchester United go out and sign five players in the first 2 weeks of the transfer window, I've got nothing to talk about for the rest of the summer, but I'm okay with that. I'd rather Manchester United win, and have a brilliant transfer window than getting, a couple hundred extra subscribers. See, I'm putting the club first. Do you know what I mean? I'm putting the club first ahead of this beautiful community that we've developed here. So, long may it continue. Anyway, let's move it on and talk about real issues. And we're talking about Elise. Chris mentioned him there. 3rd hamstring injury of the season could scupper Michael Elise's move to boyhood club Manchester United. Well, pal, what's going on? Why are you shaking your head for? I talk a lot of shy. How do I talk shy? I do hear your phone calls with your sister, and you think I talk shy. Women, by the bane of my life. Anyway, thanks for interrupting me there. 3rd hamstring injury of the season could scupper Michael Elise's move to boyhood club Manchester United. Now, getting on to somebody. Now, look, this is his 3rd hamstring injury of the season. I think it's over for him. I think Elise to Manchester United is over. Unless he comes on the cheap, which he probably won't. Now, I understand he was probably injured when Crystal Palace played him, and they shouldn't have played him. They should have allowed him rest, and that's probably down to the medical staff. But a reoccurrence of a muscular injury, especially a hamstring injury, if Crystal Palace offer him a new deal, he'd be an idiot not to take it. He really would. I think it's over for Elise to Manchester United. I really do. Let me know what you think in the comments. Let's see. Damien says we'll end up triggering a 1-year extension on Martial's contract too. I think it's too late to do that now. I think by the end of January. I think it had to be the end of January. I think Varane falls into that category as well, I think. Danny says, Sir Jim Ratcliffe and his group Ineos should have a list of players to go so we know who's going and who's staying at this starting point. I'm sure they're already working on that. That kind of talk will get you a timeout, Damien. We have 64 scouts worldwide. Brighton has 16. These guys need to start earning their money. Hope we get the business done early, not running around bargain shopping in the last few days. Spot on. Oshin says, that domestic sounded scripted, trying to add another layer to UCC. No, I just looked over and she was standing at the doorway with her head shaking. What can you do? I remember... You know, and all of the guys here that have been in long-term relationships will tell you, I remember when you first start going out and she'd laugh at everything I say. Remember that? You're so funny. Marry me. You know, that was it. Soon as... Yeah, she's laughing there now. Look. See, I can hear her laughing in the background there now. Soon as you put the ring in her finger, you're not funny anymore. You know, give them a couple of kids, game over. You're just a pawn. That's all you are. You know, anyway, what can you do? Damien says, you'll get used to her, Jack. She'll become like one of the family. Danny says, Crystal Palace are ruining Elise. They were told not to play him on the weekend, and they did. He lasted 10 minutes and then went off injured. Yeah, there you go. There you go. I do feel sorry for him in a way. But again, you know, Manchester United don't give a shit about that. And no other team should. You go out and you say, okay, he's got 3 hamstring injuries in, 6 months? Can't take a chance. And you shouldn't take a chance. You really shouldn't take a chance on him, because what happens if he comes to United and gets a hamstring injury in the first 2 weeks? That's 50 million. 50 million down the drain. Elise pulls his hamstring again. You know, that was off the cuff quick. That was. Anyway, let's move it on, guys. A little bit about, we actually mentioned him a little bit already, and that's João Neves. Fabrizio Romano responds to Manchester United's transfer links with talented young duo. So we'll get into this here. Transfer expert Fabrizio Romano has responded to the recent Manchester United transfer rumours involving talented young duo João Neves and Joshua Zirkzee. Neves has established himself as one of the finest young midfielders in world football at Benfica, while Zirkzee is having a superb season, leading the line for Bologna in Serie A. Speaking exclusively to Caught Offside for his latest daily briefing column, Romano explained that Manchester United are scouting these players, but there's nothing more concrete than that going on for the moment, as the club won't be making advances on any transfer targets until they have a new sporting director in place. The Red Devils are bound to undergo many changes in the months ahead after the purchase of 25%. Blah, blah, blah. We will have to wait patiently, basically, is what they're saying. Zirkzee to Manchester United. They've both looked like superb talents who could strengthen United, but it remains to be seen if they'll definitely be at the top of their list, or if any other clubs might be able to move for them, with Romano also mentioning AC Milan's concrete interest in Zirkzee. Again, look, we're going to be talking an awful lot about transfer rumours over the next few weeks, but going back to what Romano said there, I don't think it's going to make much of a difference. These are all just speculations. Manchester United don't have a director of football in place yet. A director of football is basically going to be the guy, the head man, alongside Barada and Ten Hag, to identify players on who we should be signing and who he wants us to sign. And I think that's the role of a director of football. That's why we've been crying out for once for so long. It will take an awful lot of pressure off of Ten Hag, where, you know, if we're talking next season about a signing that we make in the summer coming that is not working out, it's not going to be as much pressure on Erik Ten Hag. You know, you're not going to have, I mean, players that don't work out at, like, let's look, for example, at Arsenal, okay? And we look at Kai Havertz, for example. Mikel Arteta is not getting the same type of criticism around signing him than Erik Ten Hag is around signing the likes of Antony, for example, because Arsenal have a structure in place. They've got a director of football, all of that kind of stuff, where it's not down solely to one man. And I think that's what's going to happen. Hopefully, if Ten Hag is still the manager next season, we won't be, you know, well, I don't anyway, but, and the majority of this community, in fairness to you guys, don't, you know, give out about Ten Hag's transfers, because I think he's got more right than he's got wrong, which is all you can ask for, by the way. But if he's the manager next season, and we've got this director of football, and you know the CEO is Omar Barada, and we're talking about with Dave Brailsford, so on and so forth. There's not going to be anywhere near as much pressure on Erik ten Hag in terms of whether a signing works out or not, and I think that can only be a good thing. I really do. City were sniffing around Elise in the summer, says Damien. Chris says De Ligt will not go for less than 60 million. Well, he will if we offer Harry Maguire on top of it. Chris says Maguire won't go for less than 35. He's 30 next year. Or won't go for more than 35, sorry. I would take 30 to 35 million I would take for Harry Maguire in the summer. Absolutely, I would. De Ligt already has injury concerns. Benched twice in leagues less. Benched twice in leagues less than the Prem. Finn says, if we don't get Champions League, it'll really hamper our rebuild. Well, I think that's why we need to be smart, Damien, or Finn, and it's a really good point. We need to be drafting up lists of players now, and I think that's why it's so important to get a director of football in as quickly as possible, because you can have, right here, you can literally go Champions League list, Europa League list. You know what I mean? Which Champions League, they will only sign if we get into the Champions League. And if we don't, then bang. And then you have a third list in the middle where you go, right, Champions League, right, Europa League, maybe both. And then you go, right, well, which one out of that middle one that wants to play in the Champions League could we potentially sign now that we're in the Europa League? You know what I mean? And that's what we need to be doing now. We need to be drafting up players, lists, identifying. And I think if we don't get into the Champions League, we need to be very clever in the transfer window and getting these young players in. We've mentioned this before, that the likes of, Dortmund do and Brighton do and Southampton in the past, identifying these up-and-coming young players, that haven't, maybe hit the mainstream yet, and getting them in under the radar. And off you go. You know what I mean? Develop them then into world-class players. Danny says, Neves would be some signing, but so many other clubs are interested in him, so we will have to fight for him. Plus, can we really afford him? Well, again, Danny, that all comes down to outgoings. You know what I mean? And then you would have to outgoings have to be right. You have to get into the Champions League, and you just have to sell it. You really do. Oshin says, okay, Chris, we get it. You want to buy De Ligt. Reverse psychology 101. Damien says, Erik ten Hag has handled all of the off-field crap so well. Get over one drama and another one comes along. I'd like to see him just handling the actual football side of things. Absolutely, Damien. I agree with you 100%. And let's hope a bit of professionalism in the background with the structure coming in and Ineos will allow him to just fucking concentrate on. But we've been talking. Ralf Rangnick said the club need open heart surgery. Ten Hag is trying to do it. And he's the only one that's been trying to do it since Ferguson left. He's trying to do it. He's trying to weed out the wasters. And in my opinion, he's doing a pretty fucking good job of it. Ronaldo didn't want to be there. Right, see you later. Sancho, gone. Greenwood, gone. Tried to get rid of Maguire, McTominay. All right, he hasn't got enough power really to get rid of them. They are in contracts, and that's all well and good. But in my opinion, he's doing a very good job. Martial, oh yeah, he's been sick for 5 weeks. He's got an illness. Yeah, grand. Gone. See you later. And that's what you have to do. You have to be ruthless. Does anyone care anymore now that that Alex Ferguson got rid of Paul McGrath and these types of guys because there was a drinking culture at Manchester United? No one gives a fuck now. So we shouldn't give a shit now. Let Erik ten now, and I know it's not a drinking culture, but it's an attitude culture now at Manchester United. Let Erik ten Hag get rid of the wasters. And if he doesn't succeed as a manager, well then at least he will have got rid of the wasters, and the next manager will deal and have to have a better squad to work with better mentality and better, an all-round aura within the training ground and the club in general. It's a no-brainer. It's a win-win, isn't it? Or is it just me? I think. Anyway, let's see. Aaron says, what is the director of football's job? Just buying and selling? Yeah, basically. Yeah, he's over everything football. So manager, scouts, coaches, players, all that kind of stuff. That's his job. Danny says, we need to start getting smarter in the players we're buying and selling. Let's hope this is something we can improve under Sir Jim Ratcliffe. No way we get into the UEFA Champions League. Chris, that would get you a fucking ban or a timeout on this channel. All right? 5th place, remember? 5th place. 5th place. Right? And let me show you. All right? Let me show you. Just let me show you now. All right? Let me show you. Just let me show you here. All right. Here you go. All right. Let me zoom in. We are 6 points off of the Champions League spots. 6 points. If we beat Villa on the weekend, which is going to be very difficult, by the way, I mean, you're narrowing the gap to them as well. You know, look, Tottenham Hotspur are not, by any sense of the imagination, they play lovely football, really, really nice football to watch, but they're not world beaters. You know, they're going to drop points, as we are, as I presume Aston Villa are. I think it's a straight shootout between us, Spurs and Villa for them 3 spots. I don't think Newcastle are going to get anywhere near it. I think they're too inconsistent. West Ham, I would presume, will drop off. Brighton are very inconsistent as well. United, Tottenham and Villa, the 3 of them teams are fighting for 2 places, in my opinion. Chris says we need to buy players that want to be at United. Absolutely. Players that will fit our system so we can become a Champions League contender. No more great individuals. Can't hire a director of football until we get ratified. Exactly. 5th in the Prem doesn't qualify for Champions League because of how poor English clubs did this year. No, but the Champions League this season still has a determination on it. It's between us and La Liga for that 5th place. And if English teams do better in the Champions League in Europe for the remainder of the season, the coefficient will be better, and the Premier League will get that 5th spot. Damien says, United are one of the few clubs that can take the financial hit of not being in the Champions League for a season or 2. We can actually pay the wages involved. It's convincing the transfer targets to take the chance. Exactly, but you're pissing in the wind. You know what I mean? When you shouldn't be. Finn says, it's the Munich air disaster anniversary today, 6th of Feb. I was going to mention it at the very end. But fitting time to say it. Yeah, I mean, 66 years. Absolutely unbelievable. And it's the first one without Sir Bobby Charlton as well. So some lovely marks of respect today. Seen a lot of the videos and stuff. And it's a sad time for the club at this time every year. But it's also the most important piece of history that our brilliant club have. And it was the bedrock of how the club was. I think it was the bedrock that the club was built on, that tragedy. And it's a sad way of having something or having a club like that, you know, but it has it's just something in the air with Manchester United, the Munich disaster, coming back and winning it 10 years later, Matt Busby, the Busby Babes. It's the romance of Manchester United that, you know, no other club in world football has, in my opinion. And a lot of other opposition fans say that as well. I love this club. I love it. I would love it if we beat them. Love it. Guys, I think we'll leave it there. Touching, or a nice way of, a nice touching way of finishing. But yeah, thanks for watching, everyone. I really appreciate it. If you haven't hit the thumbs up button already on the video, what are you doing? Will you just hit the bloody like button for me, please? It helps out the channel an awful lot. And as well, like I said, guys, please do hit the subscribe button. We're on the road now to 8,000 subscribers. The goal is 10,000 by the end of the season. I think we can do it. Or even the start of next season. I think we can do it. So if you haven't already done so, please do hit subscribe. I'll be back in the morning with the morning news. Make sure you're tuning in, or give it a watch on your lunch break. make sure you just turn on that bell notification as well, because if you turn on the bell notification, once I upload the morning news, you'll get the notification. You can give it a watch. It's usually between 8 and 12 minutes long. Nice little morning snippets of all of the updated news as well. So make sure you're checking that out. Hit a like on that as well, and leave a comment underneath it as well, because that helps the algorithm push it out to more people. But lads, thanks for watching. I'll be back, like I said, with the news in the morning, and then of course we'll be back again tomorrow night. Same time, same place, same ugly face. Right lads, see you tomorrow. Have a good evening. Take it easy.